Hey guys, Chop It On here, NHL DFS time, March 2nd, Tuesday. Hopefully you don't hear anything going off in the background. We've got tornado sirens going off here today, statewide test, which is interesting, but those will go away here pretty soon. I'm going to make the video anyway because no tornado is going to keep me from getting data out to you guys. Anyway, as always, brought to you by DFSArmy.com, one-stop shopping, all things daily fantasy sports. From A to Z, sports weekly, monthly, annual pricing, single sport, core 4, VIP, all-inclusive, anything that you want. Follow the link down there in the description. And also, give me a follow out on Twitter. What the heck? Let's talk, let's be friends. And after all, if we're going to talk hockey and baseball here over the next few months, we might as well get to know each other's first names and our children's first names as well, because we're going to be cutting up some beers going into the evenings here as this calendar year wears on. I want to start off with game scores. I always do this as my own routine. I just want to see who's more likely to score when it comes to all of the different hockey games on a slate. We've got 8 games, it looks like today. I went ahead and wrote them down. I honestly don't even know which ones are starting at 6 p.m. or which ones are starting at 9. I don't care. I'm just looking for environments right now, just a broad-based idea. It did not work last night if you followed it. Boy, everything that was looking good yesterday was crap. But, there's nothing over 70 or 75 points either that's really suggesting that somebody's going to do well. Scoring the last little while has been down. We had a lot of 5-goal games last night, but when Anaheim does it, which I did tell you was a sneaky spot, when San Jose blows out Colorado, which I don't think a lot of us saw coming, Vancouver, knocking Winnipeg for a loop, whatever. This shit happens. It's hockey. It happens, whatever. Sometimes your ass end is up. I'm looking tonight, though, at teams like, the New York Islanders are in an okay spot comparatively. On a different slate, they wouldn't be. Maybe even Philadelphia going up against Pittsburgh. Look over here, Ottawa, believe it or not, we're talking about Ottawa on a regular basis. Carolina, Nashville has not been the defensive team. In fact, I think their penalty kill has really stunk this year. You can go back and check that if you want to. But Carolina's power play is hot, and if Nashville's penalty kill stinks, there's a good target there. Nothing out of this game too much, being a back-to-back type of night, which this is Ottawa's on a back-to-back day too. Maybe they come out a little bit flat, a little bit tired. Tampa Bay probably in the best spot of the night, going up against Dallas, who's typically a defensive-oriented team, but not so much right now in their last 10 games. That's the window I look for, is last 10 games. I'm not taking season numbers at this point very often. I'm not taking last 5 games. I want a decent-sized sample, and 10 games gives me about what I'm looking for. Whatever it is, stick with what you do. Don't do 10 games one week and 5 games another week and then season long the next week. Kind of stay within your wheelhouse, because now variance is going to happen. We're going to have cold streaks, we're going to have hot streaks. And at least this way, it's not me changing that's generating it. So I'm not constantly chasing cold streak after cold streak after cold streak. I'm staying kind of the same in some areas and then letting the hot streaks and the cold streaks kind of come to me. And it's really the only way I know how to do things to keep my sanity. When I go into the research station, I'm already looking for, tiers type situations is what we'll cover in this video. And so Islanders, Philly, Tampa Bay, Ottawa, maybe some Carolina, some stuff like that. Let's see what we get when we kick in to the research station. I'll come down here to the skaters tab here in a sec, and then hopefully if we have time, I'll show you some of these others. Bottom line is, where do I find these numbers? You can use a lot of this if you want. I like to look for, there's your offensive rank last 10 games, but I like looking at this column right here. Goals for New York, 3.1. Goals against New Jersey, 3.2. Add those together, you get 6.3. Drop the decimal point, 63. Okay, so that's all I do. And then I would, goals for New Jersey, 3.0. Goals against, 2.1. Add them together, 51. Bang. That's all I'm doing. So you can do these too when you open up access to these tools. I'm not teaching you anything I don't use myself, and I'm not teaching anything you can't do yourself. I'm not a real proprietary guy. I'm kind of an open book when it comes to that kind of stuff. My job is to get you started in a fundamentally sound direction, and then you can take it from there. That is all I do here at DFS Army. We've got a lot of other coaches on a lot more sophisticated levels than I will ever be on, but I always pick up the newer guys, the guys that are struggling, the guys that need to get back to the fundamentals, and I kind of pick you back up to where you're riding your bicycle again. Then we rip the training wheels off and we ship you off to the other guys. So if that interests you, if that's the spot of your DFS game that you're into, again, check out that coupon code DFS Army down there in the description of the video, and honestly, give us a shot. You got nothing to lose. I would start by tier 1 type plays. I know that these are sorted by DraftKings points in ascending or descending order, but I just kick it off and let's just look at who's in tier 1 today. Forsberg in Nashville has been consistent, probably not my guy. 2 Winnipeg guys and a Philly guy in JVR. Well, JVR is the lower guy on this totem pole at 11.5 points projected. But we already know Philly's maybe one of the better scoring environments tonight, better than Winnipeg, better than Nashville. Let's dive over here and take a look. Plus, he's 44% of his team's scoring, or I guess his implied scoring chance. He's 52% of his team's scoring. So he's kind of up there towards the top of these 4 guys. That's where I would be picking if I'm looking at a team only. I would look at last 10 games. I would say 23 points on FanDuel versus these other guys. I'm already looking here for the last 10 games. Last 5 games. Let's see if the streak continues a little more recently. 22, still the best scoring guy in the tier. Okay, now it's a small number. It's almost a full point, maybe over Philip Forsberg. So if you wanted to go back into season-long numbers or something like that, you could look at who's maybe shooting more pucks, putting more pucks on the net. Shots per game, 3.7. He's shooting more than JVR. So Forsberg and Ehlers might be better in the long term if you're like a bigger baseline type of guy, instead of looking a little bit more for the hotter hand or the better scoring environment tonight. When I scroll over here to the DraftKings consistency ratings, you can use the larger sample if you want, and you might even find a guy like a Mark Scheifele. But you're looking here at these 15 and 20 point numbers, and JVR is as good as it gets. Philippe Forsberg's dropped off a little bit. Ehlers is dropping off a little bit. When we come down here to the 10-game ratings, we can see now we're down to, it looks like, Ehlers and JVR. But now, there's Philippe Forsberg with a recent big game out of that last 5. So that's not terrible, but I've got 2 games of 15 plus versus 1 game of 15 plus. It's kind of splitting hairs, 60%. It's all about splitting hairs. So if you wanted to take a little bit of this consistency down here in a Scheifele or Riemsdyk, feel free. If you wanted to take the upside, the recent upside in a Forsberg, or the consistency, Scheifele gives you a little bit of consistency and upside to a bigger game. So we're wide open in Tier 1 today. I would probably look more towards scoring environment as a tiebreaker. I might take a JVR, but if you took any of those other 3, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to fight you. Brady Tkachuk, back-to-back nights. Toffoli, Atkinson, Eichel. Eichel, man, this scoring environment for Buffalo's been bad. I mean, it's been really bad. When I look at their 31st over their last 10 games in goals for, they've got paltry 1.7 goals for. New York Rangers are not necessarily giving up goals like a sieve either, so it's just not a good situation for Jack Eichel. I look down here at his numbers last 10 games. He has produced somewhat, which is okay, but it's not really an environment I want to find myself sitting into, at least not typically. Now, if something changes tonight, we'll take a look, because we're definitely going to see he's probably a higher percent of his team scoring. If Buffalo goes nuts, Eichel's going to be involved. There's no doubt about that. These other offenses are showing a little bit more balance, if you will, among their top 6 skaters or defensemen. If I come over here a little bit, look at those last 10 games. They've got a decent shot floor, but pretty low points. It looks like Cam Atkinson is the high man on the totem pole here, followed by a Brady Tkachuk. What we might look for now, a little bit of floor, Brady Tkachuk last 5 games is running hotter than any of the others by far in terms of shooting and production, nearly double the field, if you will. You might want to take that into consideration tonight, being that Ottawa's in one of the better scoring environments on the night. When I come over again to the consistency rating, just to see if we can get off of Brady Tkachuk with anybody else, I see that at the 20-point range, we're all looking at about 2 games. 20% is that? Golly, is that 4 out of 20 games? That's it? 4 out of 20 games. We're looking at 3 out of 10 games. We're looking at, 2 out of 5 games. So we're not looking at anyone who's just beaten the cover off of the puck. But if we're looking at the best among the best, last 5 games definitely been Brady Tkachuk if you look at all the green across the top. If you come down here to 10 games, you can include some Cam Atkinson with Brady. But I might be off of these other 2, because while they might be getting me a little bit of that 10-game sample at 10 points, they're definitely not getting me much above that, whereas these other guys are. So it'd be between Brady Tkachuk and Cam Atkinson for me. Again, I'd be looking for spots to maybe correlate, spots to start looking at building around a narrative, picking a team to kind of focus on, if you will. When I come down here, now we're back to, it looks like Nashville. There's some Tampa Bay finally. Pittsburgh, Philly again. Line 1, power play 1. Where's JVR? Line 1, power play 1. So we know that Couturier correlates, and we know Couturier has been on a little bit of a point streak lately. If I look over at Tampa Bay, I got to split up Stamkos and Hedman. Josie's always got a high floor. Gensel probably odd man out. So if I scroll over again here and I'm looking at the last 10 games, big shots on Josie, shots and blocks, mostly blocks. That's fine. That's a decent floor for a cash game. But 35 mostly, well, shots and blocks again, 32 here. So lower shot production out of Couturier. Interesting numbers, but production-wise, they're all about the same. A little bit of a hat tip to Steven Stamkos if you want to focus on Tampa Bay or start building some Tampa Bay into your tiers lineups. The rest of them are all pretty much the same. Last 5 games, looking for the heaters. Josie, Couturier, there's where Couturier is popping in. And consistency-wise, again, this is just a very methodical way to go about looking at things. I don't know where these numbers have kicked off on the bottom. There they are. Looking at green all the way across, Gensel's interesting over a 10-game sample size, and Josie over a 5-game sample size. So a little bigger sample size for a little bit of consistency. You're not getting much in the 20-point variety. If you're looking more at 10 points, you're looking at Couturier, who continues on. You know, again, these are the kind of things I'm looking at. Again, we're splitting hairs. I'm not seeing any obvious situations. But last night, Kevin Fiala was in an obvious spot, and I don't see much to talk about when it comes to his results last night because he and Zuccarello probably put up the goose egg. So take this with a grain of salt, but this is one way to methodically go through. This is a large sample technique. You're not going to get 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights and go, oh, crap, this doesn't work. You got to let this run for a couple of weeks and make sure that you're playing a little bit lighter, that you're playing lower dollars while you're testing something, and see if this works for you. I like the simplification of eliminating a couple of guys and then building a couple of tiers lineups with an optimizer. Something like that helps me mix and match some plays and maybe hit on a really, really strong combination once I've whittled my player pool down a little bit. If I wanted to go to stacks and use the stack finder, I can see all of the teams on tonight's slate. I can see line 1, last 5 fantasy points games. Who's got my shot floor? Looks like Ottawa. Who's got my point production? Looks like Philadelphia. So I'd be focused on the Philly 1, maybe the Ottawa 1. I come over here to the second line, and I'm looking at things like down here on shot floor. Can't draw my line over across with my eyes. So what I'm going to have to do is scroll this one over. And New York Rangers, interesting enough. There's your production. New York Rangers line 2. If you want to open it up and find out who they are, you simply pop that thing open and start looking. It's Ryan Strome, Chris Kreider, and Colin Blackwell. And if I want to look at these numbers a little bit deeper, I can see a couple of goals, 5 goals for Chris Kreider. Kreider might be somebody that you put a little boost on in your optimizers, somebody that you give a little bit of love to. He may not show up in the tiers type of stuff, but this is how you can find these things for more of the classic formats. This would not be a bad situation to look at tonight, being that he's running a little bit hot. He's not running up against an absolutely deft defense in the Islanders right now. They are a defensive team, but if we look back at our offensive scoring here, it's not like, well, the New York Rangers, Buffalo. Buffalo is not necessarily allowing no goals. I got that one a little bit confused, as I often do. Buffalo is allowing 3 goals per game over their last 10. So it's not a terrible environment for those New York Rangers. But that would be a situation to look into a little bit further. As you go through these stack finders, you can open up these guys and close them back down and start taking a look. You want to see if there's a line 3 that's relevant. You might look here at 39 points in the last 5 games for Ottawa 3. So if you're looking for value tonight, you might look no further than right there. Open that one up to see what we've turned out. And we see we've got Stutzel or whatever you pronounce his name, and Batherson. Batherson has 6 goals in his last 5 games. 5 assists here. It's a nice little pair. It's a nice little value pair on DraftKings for about $8,500. This is how you quickly use these tools to parse through a slate and start finding your spots that you're going to key on, building your narratives. When all the lines check, all the boxes check and line up together, you'll get something like New York Rangers are in a great scoring environment and they've got a hot second line, or Carolina has a hot power play, in which case we'd use our DraftKings power play stack finder here. And you look at the Carolina one with 3 goals, or 3 points, power play assists, 1 goal. Maybe not as great as I thought it was going to be. Maybe the second unit's a little bit better over in Carolina. I know their power play's been hot. I might focus on that power play too. Anyway, this is a way to help you guys build the slate. Hope you get something out of it. Let me know. Shoot me some feedback. Like, subscribe to the video. and we'll talk to you real soon.